Welcome to session 7 of Masters and PhD application guidance. That's part of our Study in Europe series. Today, we are going to be discussing Masters and PhD applications to Netherlands. And I will just very quickly introduce you to Project EduAccess, to our series, and to your panelists, and then they will take you over very similar things that we've been discussing across our Study in Europe series on just application documents, timelines, scholarships, student life, work opportunities, and career prospects, and then we move to the Q&A. So we are Project EduAccess. We believe that access to higher education, leadership, and professional opportunities is a privilege that most people from marginalized communities are systematically denied through cost, information, and dispositional barriers. And we try to improve inclusivity in some of these spaces by removing these barriers for marginalized communities in the global South. We do this by adopting 4 key interventions: mentoring, counseling, role modeling, information, advice, guidance, capacity building, and leadership skill development, and evidence-based advocacy. Our Study in Europe series is also part of our aim to improve access to higher education abroad and remove informational barriers. We've already conducted 6 sessions, as you can see on your screen. We've covered more generally master's applications, master's programs, PhD programs. We've covered Erasmus Mundus Joint Masters Program applications, and then we were covering countries. So we've already covered Italy, Germany, France, and today we're going to be discussing Netherlands, after which we go to Switzerland, Spain, and then we do a Q&A clinic that ends our session in December. With that, I will introduce to you our panelists for today. These are familiar faces. You've seen them in our workshops before. We have with us Ojaswita, who's currently pursuing a PhD in material science and engineering from Northwestern University, Illinois, in the US, but has received offers for master's applications in STEM when she was applying from and received offers from universities in the Netherlands. And we have with us Anushka, who's currently doing a PhD in law from University of Amsterdam. Both of them will talk to you about various aspects of making applications to study in Netherlands and more generally about student life, career prospects, etc. Thank you so much, Ojaswita and Anushka, for joining us today. And I will hand it over to you.
Yeah. Oh, just yeah, so I'll talk about like the masters in pursuing masters in the Netherlands. And in general, Netherlands is a country which is globally recognized for a lot of universities and has completely being ranked as the best in terms of living and studying. It has good research opportunities and also well for to find internships or like after school opportunities. Now, the good thing about the country is that you have a lot of courses that have been taught in English, and specifically if you want to go for the masters. And it's inclusive and there's no language barrier as such. People speak English a lot, so it will be best for you to really good for you to gel into the community as well. And it has a strong focus on the research with the sustainability as like main goal for it. So you can go for the next one. Yeah, so master's program in the Netherlands is typically of actually 1 or 2 years. It depends on your field, but mostly the STEM is for 2 years. And it requires, if it's 1 year, it requires 60 credits to be completed. And if it's 2, it requires 120 credits. And they will have a combination of coursework, some practical projects, internship, master thesis, and depending on what is the length of your project, what is the length of your program. And it is popularly known for a lot of courses to study, STEM specifically. Then you have engineering, sciences, data science, environmental science, even business, law, humanities, like a whole lot of opportunities to do there. And some of the top universities which offers masters, and specifically in English, you have University of Amsterdam, you have Technical University of Delft, you have Utrecht University, Erasmus University Rotterdam, some Leiden, Göttingen. These are a lot of universities that you can get back in the Amsterdam. Next one. Yeah, so application process for the master's program is pretty much equivalent to what you see in other European universities as well. So all the master's program have their requirements mentioned on the website. So please go through them before applying. And the resources such as Study in Holland is a good platform for you to narrow down the individual universities as well as go into their specific websites in order to see the requirements and the application deadlines. Now, you need to ensure that you fulfill the eligibility criteria, which generally includes similar to all the other applications, like you have a bachelor's degree and have completed a particular amount of credits in one particular course that you're applying. Then English proficiency, whether you have done all your studies in English or you have English proficiency test that can prove that. Specifically the IELTS and the TOEFL scores. Then general requirements like you put in a CV, a motivation letter, 2 to 3 recommendation letters, it depends. And yeah, and a portfolio if you're applying for like design degrees. Also, sometimes you might have to give the calculation of the number of credits that you have done equivalent to the course that you want to pursue. So some type of that document could also be required. But again, it depends on university to university. It's simple that the applications are typically the ones that you submit on their university portal. It's specific to each university. But you have a centralized system, which is known as the Studi link. And through that system, you can select the number of the universities that you want to apply. So, but there's this one centralized thing where you apply to. And usually the deadlines are a bit early, I would say, as compared to other countries. So it's usually ranges from January to end of April or mid-May as well for the follow-up intake. Yeah, and I'll hand it over to Anushka.
Thank you, Ojaswita. So I'll just quickly give an overview of the PhD programs. So they take generally around 4 years to complete. The duration is usually mentioned in the call for applications. So that's usually the average time. They are highly research focused with students working as salaried employees or self-funding their studies. By that, it means that in the Netherlands, a PhD is considered to be equivalent to a job. So we have our employment contracts drawn up, we are paying taxes, we draw a salary. The salary is subject to things like a bonus, increment, etc. These are extremely specific to the courses and the universities and the programs you apply to. So it's good to check, but this is a common practice that you are considered to be a salaried employee in the country. Yeah, so as the projects calls are set up, they can be in different areas of focus, such as STEM, medicine, humanities, and social sciences. They're usually funded by the government or by the European Commission or by private bodies. And it's good to check, but the calls are usually drafted in a way that they give you these specific informations to look further. Leading institutions, of course, include many universities, as mentioned here, but also more. I understand that the Netherlands has around 20 universities. And from what I understand, almost all of them are qualitatively similar. So, and we can come to this in the Q&A. It's just best to check if the PhD fits what you want to do, if the supervisors and their work fits the approach that you want to take. And then universities do not differ much in quality and the way they approach their students. So in that sense, it's just a good idea to focus on what you want to do. Next slide, please. So the application process is again similar to what Ojaswita mentioned for the masters, which is that you can either do a search on your own. So all of these university websites would keep on sending calls. The university websites are also standardized in the sense there are departments. Within the departments, there might be research institutes where it's good to check. Otherwise, as mentioned in point 4, there is Academic Transfer. That's the name of a website. And it's a very good website to just get all information in one place about many research positions, not just PhDs, but also postdocs, postmasters positions for different fields. So just subscribe to this website and get all the information in one place. It's very okay to contact the PIs and the professors who you will either research with if you're responding to a call. In case there is an open call for PhD proposals in a particular university and you're applying and you're looking for potential supervisors, again, it's okay to email them. People are receptive. It's never taken negatively. You at max, you may not get a response because they're busy, but it's a good practice to approach them. Yeah, application requirements will differ, but they usually require a research proposal, a CV, transcripts and recommendations letters. Yeah, so you can also explore external scholarship or grants, which are, I think, mentioned in the next slide. So we can move there. So yeah, so these are the specific scholarships which are available depending on your course and the amounts that you require. It's a good idea to look these up in detail. And yeah, we can move to the next slide. Yeah, I think Ojaswita and I both can talk a little bit about it, where the student life in Netherlands is pretty good, I would say, except there are two things right now which are happening in the country. One is the housing crisis. So depending on the city and the place where you will be housed, accommodation can be tricky. Like just the supply of accommodation is a little less. So these are the costs, as mentioned. Food, housing, transportation is fine. I wouldn't say it's the cheapest across Europe, but it's manageable, and there is a very thriving cycling culture. So there are bike lanes, and you can save transportation costs that way. It is true that English is widely spoken. You don't need to know Dutch deeply, except if you are, and it depends on where your university is located. So in bigger cities, usually English will not be a problem. In other places, you might want to know a bit more Dutch. So the second thing which I was mentioning is happening is cutting down on funding because of the change in government. So here also there's a very clear right-wing shift in the governance process, and budget cuts have been introduced. They do impact PhDs and research positions across the board. So this is something to be taken care of. And along with the budget cuts, there is also a wider focus on knowing Dutch, learning Dutch, if you want to participate in the academic life. But again, we can come to that in the Q&A. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is something to check once you've taken up your contracts, which is if you can work alongside your PhD or not. So PhDs are also structured very differently. You can be an external PhD, which is that you do work elsewhere and also do the PhD, but then you may not be funded. You can do part-time PhDs, you can work alongside your PhDs, but this also has to be reported because of visa requirements as well as the money that you earn and like taxation. There are these part-time jobs, as mentioned. It is important for non-EU citizens and students to always have their documentation and resident permits in place. And it is typically handled by the employer. So it's always good to ask once you've gotten the position, there are like departments which help you with this. So to get all your paperwork in one place. Yeah, the master's program also include these opportunities to give you greater exposure. Next slide. Yeah, I think so. I mean, the career prospects are as good as they get in the sense that, of course, networking plays a role. Once you are housed in an institution for a longer time, the university supports your endeavors. So in that sense, it's a very open system because there is at least within Europe and US, I would say like cross-continental collaborations. So they do like to exchange and share knowledge. So that's that. And yeah, I think you can be comfortable about a career prospect for sure. Next slide. Yeah, I think we can move to the Q&A.
Hello. Okay, perfect. That was very nice and quick and very comprehensive. So thank you so much, Anushka and Ojaswita. We now move to the Q&A. If anyone has any questions, please raise your hands and ask your questions directly to the speakers, or you can put your questions in chat. If you're not comfortable with that, you can also put your questions in my DM or Anushka or Ojaswita's DM. So you can also send it to one of us personally, and we will ask the question out anonymously. Yes, Vishnu.
Hello, is it audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I have a doubt in two things. For applying for PhD, is there publication necessary or compulsory kind of?
Yeah, so firstly, I think it depends on the field. So I am coming from the field of law. There was no compulsory requirement, but I had to submit two writing samples. So they do not have to be published necessarily, but they need to showcase the writing.
Okay, I had applied for a few universities like Amsterdam and EMB and other. They had asked a separate segment for publications. In that way, should
Which field is this?
this is sort of metabolomics, like a science field, biochemistry, bioinformatics field.
Bio. So, yeah, I wouldn't know about STEM so much. Like, oh, Jaswita, from your experience, if you know about like the STEM fields and publications, but yeah, if
In general, again, like there's no requirement as such. They don't mention it blatantly. If you have, it will add to your CV, but nothing like it's necessary. Writing samples sometimes, or sometimes if they want, they can ask for a research proposal, but that did not happen with me. So, answering your question, like it's not necessary to have a publication. So, yeah. But what you are saying, I think so. It might be like a requirement, but in general, that's not the case.
If in case, can I add my submitted papers, which is in first review
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
general?
you can, yeah, yeah. But you just need to mention, even if you're putting it on your CV, just mention that, like, however you will quote the paper, and then just say that it is submitted. That's it. In which journal that needs to be written.
Yeah, as we see, most of the universities for PhD it is not necessary we should have done IELTS or TOEFL. I am having the bona fide certificate from my university that our instruction of medium is English. Is it okay to from your side?
Yeah, it's okay. And also you can just drop in a quick email to them that like I have done all my studies throughout my life in English, and that's the case with the Indians more generally. So, and then you can see what they say, but in general, it's all okay. If it's on an official paper and everything, you can add that.
Uh, and one more doubt is I am a master's graduate. Can I apply for master's degree? I mean second master degree with a scholarship thing in Netherlands?
Yes, absolutely. But the thing only that you need to take care of is that you need to prove why do you want to do a second master's. So you need to like write a good motivation letter where you would say, okay, I've done my studies, bachelor's and master's. But for example, if you're changing your stream, or if you want to have
Yeah, I am
more.
little bit changing the stream from biochemistry, life science to bioinformatics. It's a combination of computer science and biology.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can write your motivation. Like that should be clear while during a second master's, because that's usually the necessity when you're applying for a second master's. So that's it. Otherwise, you can apply. Everything's fine. Just like keep your motivation really strong. and just see that if when you're changing fields, your kind of credits not match, but like are similar to what you're going to study. Like your background is a bit similar to what you're going to study, or like you've completed some specific number of credits. Usually that's
Yeah,
not
I
the
have
case. So like,
done some projects related to that field only,
okay,
which I'm going to study, and I am work experience also as a freelancer.
yeah, then it's
12
fine.
plus.
Yeah. Sometimes in Germany, what happens is that they require like exact credits and stuff. But again, you can apply and see. But again, it's fine. You can apply.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you both. There's one more hand raised, and there's a few questions in chat and in my DM. So maybe Sabina, you can ask your question first, and then we go to the chat.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Anushka and Ojaswita, for the crisp, all this demonstration. See, I have done my master's in biotechnology and MPhil in plant biotechnology, and currently I'm running a startup in climate change. And I have applied for a few universities in Netherlands and Germany, but somehow I'm not able to get the, that kind of response. 1 or 2% did reply, but then they say they don't have current openings. I have publications and citations as well. So I really don't know where I'm going wrong. Could you please help me in that matter? If you could help me to connect somebody who is particularly working in climate change. My research is how to replace the petroleum fossil byproducts, something like that. So Anushka, if you are there in Netherlands currently, and if you happen to meet somebody, who is working in this kind of field, directly, I'm not able to meet anybody. And that's the thing. I'm really facing a big trouble in this area. Actually, I've been trying for the last 1 year, and something not working out for me. So yeah.
Would you tell me which universities you are like sort of looking at?
I,
Because this is sort of like a
I yeah, for Germany, Helps University, and for Amsterdam University, I did apply. And Sweden also, I applied. Stockholm University and all that. But the current research, I don't know, it is not aligning with them. Somehow, it is not.
I can probably just suggest that there are a couple of technical universities which you could look at. So there is TU Delft, TU
Mhm.
Eindhoven. Let me just think of a few more, and I can put those in the chat. And it would
Sure.
be just good to look at their websites and then the particular research area or institute or yeah, department, and then probably approach the people one by one.
Somehow, yeah, I did for that. I mean, like for Sweden also, I did. Same way I approached university application and all that. But something is not working out. Final they will say, ki, we already had found the candidate, and some, at the end, it's like that.
I think so. That's a very like that's generally what happens when you approach, and
Mm-hmm.
usually the positions are kind of filled, or you go to the last stage, but then they find somebody else. It's honestly like really the part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say like you need to keep trying, keep your options open, and keep your research field also a bit open. Sometimes we are very adamant as to what kind of topic we want to pursue, and then like having options for the PIs in general, it gets very narrowed down. So I would say like keep your palette like really open if you want to get like a good university or a PI, because usually the PhD project doesn't remain the same for the 4 whole years. It will change, okay, and it will like
Mm-hmm.
honestly depends on the PI. So when you can have the talks with them and see like if you can structure the PhD in some way, it's all okay. Coming so first point would be like keep your options open in general in countries and in the universities as well. Don't go by rankings at all. For PhD you need to have a PI or a group which is good enough, which does good research.
Mm-hmm.
Rank doesn't matter at all.
Mm-hmm.
uh, Also, yeah, in Europe that's a bit very difficult to find kind of PhD positions in this way. So the only thing that you can do is on normal websites, on Google, you can see which positions are open, and even on LinkedIn, then it gets a bit more easier for you to like go through the process rather than like just cold emailing. So I would say just do everything, which is like go through the websites as well, cold email, and also like look for open positions both on Google and LinkedIn. I would say yeah, like that's the only way kind of you can get through it's also not your problem. Like, you have done your studies, you have your publications and stuff, so don't think that your CV is not working or your research is not applicable to what they're doing. It's just that, as Anushka said in her presentation, that there is a lot of cut on the funding as well, so
Mhm.
they might not be like hiring in general, right?
Right.
Also, there is a bit difficulty with international students, like visa issues, okay, sometimes. So they would definitely prefer a Dutch student if they have an option. Sometimes people have done research in a particular lab and then they continue for a PhD, so
Mhm.
that's like internal candidate. So again, telling you, like, it's not your problem. Just broaden your palette, I would say, in terms of research, in terms of countries, and in terms of research groups that you're applying to, if you're specifically looking for Europe, though.
Yes, that is what I'm also thinking actually. Somebody told me the same thing. If students belong to the same team and the PI always have a tendency to recruit the same person, once he decides to go for pursue a PhD, that happens many a time. Probably that is the main reason. Anyway, thanks. Thanks a lot for your
Yeah,
advice. Yeah,
okay.
so
Just,
much.
it's not your thing, so just
Yeah,
keep applying.
It's a matter of
yeah,
time. Yeah. Good
that's the
luck.
thing. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sabina. So there's a few questions in chat. I know Jessica responded to some of them, but I'll still read them out just for those who are watching the recording of the session as well. So the first question is, are there application fees for master's programs? Do they provide waivers? And I guess similarly for PhD programs as well. If both of you can respond to that.
There's
Um,
no application fee for PhDs.
yeah, for PhDs, you
Uh,
have nothing.
yeah, so PhD processes are two types. You are always responding to calls. The calls may be open in the sense submit your own research proposal, or the calls may come with an entire project set, and you have to figure out if you sort of fit into that project and how you will approach that project. So you are always responding to some calls, so there is no fee.
And for masters, there is an application fee, but we're not sure if they give waivers. But there's no harm in reaching out to the university and asking for waivers.
Exactly.
Then someone is asking, is a dissertation from masters necessary for a PhD in Netherlands, or would general publication in journals and books work?
Again, the calls would be very specific. If a master's dissertation is a necessary requirement, I don't think so. At max, they say like a master's degree or X number of credits taken, etc. And as I mentioned previously, just providing writing samples should be okay, published or unpublished. So I wouldn't say that a dissertation is a necessary requirement.
Perfect. Thank you. Another question is, the course I'm applying for says that I meet the requirements, so I will be admitted. What does that mean?
Where do you see this, like in your admission letter or on the website? I don't like clearly understand what you're asking.
Yeah, I'm also not sure what the question is, so maybe you can send a clarification.
It's not in the chat, right?
Oh, someone has sent it as a DM to me.
Oh, okay.
Another question is, in Netherlands, when applying for a PhD, does the rank of your Indian university where you did your master's matter?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely no rankings matter anywhere. So don't.
Right, I will. So someone's asking to see the slide for the scholarships again. So I'm just gonna share my screen, but also this session is recorded, and so you will be able to see the recording, and you can pause and take a screenshot at that time as well. But I'm still going to share. Yeah. So here is the slide with the scholarships. We've already done a session on Erasmus. The recording is uploaded on our YouTube. And we are planning to do a session on both the Holland and Orange Tulip scholarship. So keep a lookout for information on that on our social media. Okay. Okay, so another question or statement is that most of the PhD scholarships mentioned they should not be residing in the same country or studied before, only for international students. So we won't know whether they are not preferring candidates from India or South Asia much.
Same country, I think so, mean by like Netherlands. Like if you're applying for a scholarship in the Netherlands, you shouldn't be residing there for like a longer time, like for a year or so. That's what I remember also. Like you need to be outside of the country to apply for that particular scholarship. Yeah, and that could be like in India or otherwise. I think so. That's what I understood. You can just unmute and ask if I've answered your question.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that as well.
Yeah. As you discussed before, they may prefer Dutch persons who have studied before in the same college later. But most of the PhD scholarship which I applied, they are told like they should not be resided in the country like more than a minimum of 1 year, 2 years. And there are most of the international students only they accept for that scholarship and that PhD position. But as we see, most of the like US or other peoples, it look like they are getting cited as we go to lab members compared to South Asians or Indians. Based on my thing, I'm saying.
Scholarships are mostly open to international people. So it's always open to like South Asians or Indians. If they take a Dutch person for a PhD position, then they mostly are not open, like they do not open scholarship positions for the Dutch people. They are kind of, because Dutch people kind of don't need to pay anything, tuition or anything, they study for free. So they will get a stipend and everything as PhDs. Uh, but what I know is like most of the scholarships are not open to them, and they are open to the international students. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the preference which they give because as an international compared to other countries like US, the person who's done masters in US or like other China or some other countries, it look like they are preferring to that person that candidates based
Oh, that
like the
way,
time the
yeah.
question was.
I mean, it could be, but also like that should not deter you from applying. Like, see, you apply and your application is in your hands, but you getting selected is not in your hands. Okay, so whether you've done your masters or whatever, like studies from India or on the US or in the US, um it's kind of okay, but that should not deter you from applying. But yeah, in general, could be a thing or could not be. It honestly depends on your profile and how strong it kind of matches with the scholarship requirements or the PhD requirements. So don't worry about that.
Yeah, okay.
Great. I don't see any other questions in chat, and I know other questions in my DM. If anyone has any question now would be a good time to ask. Otherwise, we will end the session. We'll wait for a minute more. So if you have any question, you can raise your hand or put your questions in chat. Another thing is that while you're thinking of a question, as I mentioned, the session is being recorded, and all our other sessions on part of the Study in Europe series have been recorded as well. So you can watch them on our YouTube channel. I'm just sending a link to that in chat. And also, we've developed guides on writing application documents that are uploaded on our website. So if you are sort of struggling with that, you can have a look at those application guides as well. Okay, sorry, another question that's come is, what are the chances of getting scholarship for masters?
Chances, I don't know, should I give like a percentage or a probability? But like you should apply. If you get it, it's good. If not, then also it's good. It's not that expensive, honestly, to study in the Netherlands as compared to the US. Although, like, you have tuition in masters, which is really high as compared to other European universities. So that could be like a deterrent. Otherwise, living is still better, like in terms of like housing or like the money that you spend on travel or groceries and stuff. But although I would say like scholarships are a bit competitive, like they would select only like 5 to 10 people, and they would say that like scholarships are university specific as well. Like there are two of them. One is country specific, like the Holland one, and those ones, but you have university specific also. So I would suggest like apply for both, but they are a bit competitive, I would say.
Okay. And another question that has come in my DM is, are PhD applications funded? Are PhDs funded, or do we have to apply for scholarship separately?
So I think we discussed this in the slides, but there are both kinds. So I haven't seen self-funded PhDs in the Netherlands unless you are doing something called a part-time PhD or an external PhD. That is like I think a very common affair even across, say, the UK, other countries, which is that you're doing your PhD on the side. So you have a very, very different contract. It's not a full-time contract. You are also working elsewhere. You might be working in India and doing a PhD here, which is all a possibility. Those are, what I would call self-funded. Otherwise, if you are here and you are working full-time towards the PhD, those are usually funded PhDs, where you do not even have to apply for a scholarship. So as I was saying, that they are usually job contracts, but this is also coming from my experience of applying for a law PhD. So I do not know what the answer for a STEM PhD is, but I would sort of say it's the same. It's a very standard idea of a job that you are doing as a PhD in the country. So external PhDs or part-time PhDs would be the only self-funded ones.
Okay.
Yeah, usually the PhDs are funded. You don't need to worry about that. And you don't need to apply externally for PhD scholarships, at least for STEM, never. Whatever the projects come, they are usually funded, and you don't need to apply for any external PhD funding. Yeah, when you once get you into a PhD, and there might be some scholarships that you can apply that the PI would tell you, but from the start, you don't need to apply for anything.
Great, I think that's about it. No more questions in DM or in chat. It would be great if you can share experience in the application process, which you struggled a lot. I guess more generally, if there's any part of the application that you had troubles with.
I mean, I can share a bit, which is just finding a right call, right? So I think a lot of attendees here have mentioned about their experience of applications and applying constantly, and I think it's part of the process. So it is a matter of time. There are many things which have to align to get the PhD. And as Ojaswita mentioned, it's not you, like you're doing your best, and this is not in your hands alone. So yeah, I think the application process can get a bit tiring because you have to customize your application to each call that you are responding to. So that's just what I would say is challenging. But I think in the Netherlands, what you're lucky about is academic transfer. I am just putting this in the chat, but I would suggest everybody to look at that website, because at least you do not have to constantly look up different universities to respond to calls. So that makes the process relatively easier. So yeah, I think from my point of view, that's about it.
Yeah, me too. Like, it's the same thing. Usually, when you're up in the cycle, you have all the documents prepared, kind of, so you don't worry about that. But the only thing which is kind of not in your hands and gives you distress is like people not replying to you and everything. So again, as I said before, you need to like broaden your goals and your countries as well as your PI research groups, whatever you are looking into. Um, yeah, I think so. That was the most difficult part, though. Yeah.
And with that, we can end the session.
Just a second, I'm
Yeah.
responding to a DM.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay. I'll just in the meantime wrap, like sort of summarize. Uh, okay. Another question. Could you please let me know when we are asked to send a sample of writing, do we need to scan the whole thesis, hard copy, or some part of it?
I think the writing samples would also mention a page limit. Do try to keep it between 5 to 7. You have to understand that these are people who will get many applications. I wouldn't say 50 to 100, but they would get many applications, right? So they want to just understand your skill set, whether you're a good fit. As I think Ojaswita also mentioned, your PhD is going to change a lot. Everything that you do is going to change a lot. So your application is to just for the PI to assess whether you're a good fit. Now, this is an extremely subjective question, right? That is just done based on, okay, how did you approach a problem? How did you solve it? What is your mental map, so to say? So you are just indicating your personality through a few documents. That's how I understand this process. So no, please do not scan the whole thesis. Do not send a hard copy. Do not send a full thesis. You have to condense it in 5 to 7 pages. I would say 5 pages should be the limit of any writing sample that you send across. Yeah.
Great. There's always one question that pops up at the end. Um, okay, we'll wait for a few seconds. Anushka, have you responded to the Great. I think with that, we can end the session. I've already put in chat 2 links. One is the link to our website, which has the application document guides. And the second is our YouTube channel, which has the recording of all of the Study in Europe series, Study in US series, and all online public workshops that we've done, along with the recording of this workshop that will be uploaded in a few days. Thank you so much, Anushka and Ojaswita, for joining us and for responding to all of the questions that came. Thank you everyone for joining us today and for making the session so interactive. And yeah, all the best with your applications and have a nice rest of your weekend.
Good luck. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.